There we go. So now we are recording. Um, so our group agreements, how we'll be in the space, how we can help create that place of safety that you all are feeling comfortable in interacting, in taking what you need from this community of practice. So again, this should all look familiar, being respectful, um, finding people right where they are. We all have different experiences, opinions. There's lots of stuff swirling around us now. Um, so being patient with ourselves, being patient with our sometimes maybe often dysregulated nervous systems, being present. Again, that's taking care of yourself, taking pause when you need to take pause, on or off camera as you are feeling comfortable or as your bandwidth, wherever you are, allows. Being adventurous, stepping outside of your comfort zone, being able to explore, have some fun, try some new things out, and then take excellent care of yourself. Is there anything else that is not on this list that will help you feel safe and be able to get what you need from the community of practice today? All righty. So a couple of announcements. At the beginning of March, Angie sent out an email. We're a little late on our trainer recertification. As most of you probably know and or remember, every 2 years we ask our trainers to go through a certification, or sorry, recertification. And what that entails is attending a meeting or watching the recording of a previous meeting, or sorry, not meeting, recertification training, and then filling out a new trainer agreement, and then sending and Google form and send everything to Angie. So either in the chat or if you want to come off mute, this would apply to anybody who went through the training of the trainer February 2023. So if you did not go through, if it was before and you haven't done recertification, or it was you did your training in 2023, you are able to do this recertification, and re-up to be a trainer for 2 years. So I'm not sure if that applies to anybody yet, or if you even remember when you went through training.
That might have been me.
Okay. All right. So, so in the email from Angie, she gave two options: attending today, because I'm going to go through fairly quickly a little bit of what the recertification recording is. I would really, if you are due for recertification, or if you have, and I guess, Jeremy, when you went through training, do you remember? Yes, Angie does. Angie does have a list. So you can check in with Angie. Um, it would take me a while to pull it up. Otherwise, Sabrina, I would check, let you know. Um, Good morning, Jill. We, so in September, the recording in September, the folks that were going through recertification needed to learn about the modular components. So that was I think our last group that didn't see the modular components. So if your training included all of those little building block modular components, then you're already familiar with what's on that training recording. So then attending this community of practice would count for that. So Jeremy, if you want to check with Angie too, I'm not sure if you're due or not. So, but then after you've either viewed the recording or you attend this community of practice, the email from Angie, and I just realized I was good. I did put the date and I put the wrong year, not February 2024. It was February 2023. But it was March 7th if you want to search your emails. Angie did attach the trainer agreement. And so you can just sign that at the bottom of the trainer agreement. I think it's Exhibit A. There's a link for a Google form. That's how you fill out all of your information to be listed in the on the website as a certified trainer, and then email everything to Angie and she'll re-up you for another 2 years. So in light of the recent executive orders, we've gotten a handful of calls and contacts from our trainers who are either working with organizations that receive federal monies or are in organizations that are federal organizations, or they themselves receive federal money. So what Angie and I did is we went through the curriculum, and these are the slides that, as we were talking through with people that were reaching out, that have the potential to create some challenges with folks under the most recent executive orders. So what Angie has done, we have not taken anything out of the curriculum because there are folks that may not need to do this, that are not having concerns or not feeling nervous about presenting the material. So in each of these, so that slide 14 is our historical trauma slide. In the trainer notes, Angie has put a notation that says it is okay for you to hide this slide if it is needed in light of the executive orders. So we've created that little extra layer of trainer flexibility in order to be able to continue to present your ACE trainings. The other one is the slide on systemic racism, which is slide 25. These are all in module 1. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. These are all in module 1, which is the module everybody presents first. So again, you have the option to hide this slide and not present it. This is slide 26, and this is a new slide that's going to be in module 1, which is now slide 27. So slide 26, again, we have this trauma and social location. So it does mention historical trauma. Again, we're leaving this up to our trainers. You know best how you feel, what may be uncomfortable, we don't want to put anybody at risk, either the folks you're presenting for or you yourself as a trainer in your work. So we are leaving it 100% up to you whether or not you feel you need to hide or present these slides. So you can use this slide. We did find, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably going to start using this slide more and more often, because what this slide shows is the same things. We've got pre-existing contextual factors. You can talk through these. This comes from an article. Let me make a note and I will send it when I send the follow-up email. I'm not sure if we put it on the trainer site, on the consortium website where all of the additional resources are. I can't write and talk at the same time. Okay, so I will make sure to remember to send that out. But it shows the impact of intervention and prevention, which is a really nice thing to, when we're talking about ACEs, that understanding that in the absence of protective factors, in the absence of support, intervention, prevention, we see the detriment of early adversity on later adult health outcomes. But with intervention and prevention, we see lesser outcome, lesser detriment, if that makes sense. So you can use one or the other. If you want to use both, you can. This is, again, going to be a trainer choice. Are there any questions? And hopefully I did not confuse anybody. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions. I do want to, one of the things that I get asked a lot is the data collection. And one of the things that's mentioned, if by chance you're due, and if by chance you decide you want to watch the recording, one of the things that's on the recording, Cases Connection, which we show you at the training, which is where we collect data. At the time, September 2024, Paces Connection had lost their funding. They have now gotten funding. They're back up and running. So for data collection, just a quick reminder, this is a link to the form. It's a Google form. It's on Paces Connection. It's our Arizona ACEs in Action collection form. But just to make sure, to clarify, we are still collecting data through that link. There is no time limit. So if you did trainings a year ago, if you did trainings 6 months ago and you haven't entered the data, that's okay. Please feel free to go back and catch up. That data helps us in a number of ways. Mostly it helps us see what communities we are not having a lot of trainings in, and what communities might need a little bit extra support and outreach. Okay. So now we'll move on to the other stuff. So talking about this transformational resilience, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with Substack. If you're not, it's a great platform of independent writers. And Dr. Doppelt just started writing, and he had an article on there related to these transformational resilience networks. And it really impacted me because what he talked about and what we're going to talk about are these local resilience networks. And we all have them. And if you're feeling a little bit like I've been feeling, it feels so overwhelming. It's the what can I do? What can I do where I'm at with the resources that I have to impact, to support this ever-changing landscape. And for the majority of folks, I think that take our training, that are our certified training, we are working with populations that are being significantly, or we are in populations that are being significantly impacted by the disruption and chaos at the federal level. So we wanted to be able to, or I wanted and felt like this was a timely thing to really talk about where are our networks so that we don't feel alone, so that we are able to find those groups and those people, and we are able to serve the folks that we're serving. So, you know, we talked a little bit, I had you introduce yourself with like what keeps you safe, or what makes you feel safe. And so being able to stay in that place of relative safety, knowing that you have these networks. So this currency of systemic change and the importance of trust, and all of that comes down to the people. So when we think about, you know, we have a lot of programs, we have a lot of systems that can support people, but it's the people that support people, which feels like a pretty heavy lift these days. So wanted to take some time to talk a little bit, and this is just a little synopsis from the article. So Dr. Doppelt has talked about these transformational resilience coordinating networks, which are more formal for me when I'm looking at, you know, what he's written about before with these coordinating networks and grassroots efforts versus what this most recent article was focusing on, which is what I feel like is more of an informal network. And so these transformational, and again, I'll share the information afterwards. And actually, once Tatiana is talking, and I'm not trying to multitask, I'll put some links in the chat, excuse me, to some of the resources with Dr. Doppelt. His website is up there, www.bobdoppelt.com. So you can find those resources there as well. Excuse me. So this more formal, which is more of a council or a group of organizations, you can probably name some groups that you're a part of that probably fall under something like a transformational resilience coordinating network. We have a lot of them. We have a lot of meetings of multiple agencies, and we see the same people at those multiple agency meetings. But really the focus is on this psychological wellness and resilience across multiple organizations and stakeholders. And it becomes the hub for there's like a lot more structured decision making, those kinds of things that happen at this more formal level. At the informal level, it really is the community level. And I'm not necessarily talking about like neighborhood level, but the community level, where organizations informally interact, refer folks one to another, back and forth, gain that support, those resources, with a focus of preventing harm. And I don't mean this preventing harm. Sometimes we might couch that in substance use disorder prevention, but really preventing any kind of physical, psychological, emotional harm and helping residents recover after adversity. So building this collective support and pressure with fundamental change. So Dr. Doppelt, if you've read any of his stuff, he really looks at environmental factors. So if you remember from the training, we talk about the, I think it's in module 1. I get all of the slides get all mushed together in my brain. And I think so, yes, Sabrina, I'd like to think that our communities of practice are local resilience networks. I will say, and Jill, you can back me up on this, our trainer support work group has become an informal local resilience network, coming together and having those meetings and having some space for folks to be able to just be able to I think be able to metabolize everything that's going on around them, both verbally as well as like the emotional parts of it. So we come together, and when we meet, we typically spend a significant portion of our meeting just checking in with everybody and seeing how everybody's doing. So yes, Sabrina, I would say yes. So, but he really looks at this, the underlying piece. Obviously, the priority is the preventing harm, the support, recovery from adversities, but there's always that system change underlying in all of his work, particularly around environmental biodiversity issues. So when we look at this forming or strengthening, like when putting a little more intentionality, bringing a little more awareness to where your local resilience networks are. So part of forming one or strengthening an informal one is taking that time to get to know one another and practicing those good communication skills. This piece of communication skills and conflict resolution is a core piece of what we train our trainers on. These setting group agreements for the structure of safety and how to talk about the things that we talk about in our trainings, but also discuss what do we do when someone is operating outside the group agreements? How do we, in respectful, loving, affirming ways, bring everybody back to being able to create safety even when we disagree? And then developing strategies. I use this word very loosely because strategies, we feel like, oh my gosh, we have to have a form, we have to have a structure, but really, what are the strategies that we use? The strategy, and I'll go back to our trainer support group, the strategy we use that promotes recovery and resilience is just everybody taking time and building time into their schedule to attend the meeting, and then understanding that our meetings have extra time built in for this checking in, for this time to be able to create safety within the meeting. And so people don't mind committing that time. So that's a strategy, if you will. It doesn't have to be things that are really, really structured. Any questions or any thoughts? I wanted, oh, and Tatiana, I totally missed I didn't put a slide in for our breathing and meditation. And I'm just looking at my agenda now to see if I'm on time.
You're okay.
Sorry about that.
You're fine.
So this may or may not look familiar. So focusing on building this population level support. This is a slide that we have in the building resilience through healing centered approach or healing centered environments. And again, this is the work of Dr. Dopplet. And so what he does is he looks at building these supports. We build these, what he calls presencing supports. So the presencing supports is things that bring us in the present moment. So these are these leaves that are here at the bottom. So grounding, I think, probably all are very familiar with grounding. So centering, calming the nervous system. And when we say calming, it doesn't have to be a quiet activity. And so what first brought to mind for me is Bill this morning when he did his check-in said, feeling safe is long distance wind therapy. So being on his Harley and just being out on the road. That's a grounding thing. It doesn't have to be being quiet and, some of the things that we associate with that. So whatever grounds you, really remembering your resources. So like grounding, checking in, remembering where your resources are. And one of those, Dr. Dopplet talks in the article about these mutual aid networks. And again, we all have them. So I am going to put this link because I discovered this link. It's a national link and you can look by your state and see mutual aid hubs for resources. And I think it's food. It's both resources and food. So remembering our material and social resources. So observing our thoughts. Okay, so observing your thoughts and your mindfulness. So being able to stay present in the moment, having intentional focus or refocus on your attention. So right now it's easy for our brains to start spinning out into the what ifs because things do feel a little bit uncertain or maybe a lot uncertain. So that observing and again, staying present in the moment. And then these purposing, these are how we grow from adversity. Okay. So these adversity-based growth, how we show up in the midst of the stress, possibly in the midst of trauma. So really, this is that transformational. If you've read anything about transformational resilience, post-traumatic growth, a lot of this is in those pieces. So looking for and watching for, so watching internally, watching for new possibilities that are opening as a result of what's happening. So what are some of the new possibilities? Re-energizing some of these networks, possibly. It might be more opportunities where we're seeing people being a little more friendly, a little more open, a little bit more care. Folks working to reduce the amount of division that we have been seeing over the last many years in our neighborhoods and our organizations. Tapping into your core values and looking where are the places and the circles that you participate. So in your family, in your neighborhood organizations, in your spiritual practices and your spiritual communities. At work, what are those circles? Tap into these circles that you are already orbiting in and recognizing what holds you to these places, right? What are those common core values? And then harvesting hope, and making choice. I always think that's the key to resilience, is even in the midst of the swirl of the storm, that we can create the space to make a choice. And that is, to me, that is the epitome of practicing resilience. Any other comments, any questions? So building robust social connections, this is a protective factor. Any of you that are part of the Strengthening Families Protective Factor framework trainer core, or if you've had a training. So really providing those social connections, grassroots, they could be formal, they could be job-based networking, whatever that looks like. So building these social connections across cultural, economic, and geographic borders. So again, bringing a little more presence and intentionality to how you're already doing this. And then, let me see, did I skip one? I did not. So that's population support, social connections. And then here are some examples. Just thinking about some of these ways that you might already be creating or a part of or participating in these local resilience networks. So neighborhood-based mutual aid networks, which there's the mutual aid hub website, but also, again, those informal ones, where I always think of this as the cup of sugar, where you go, you have that neighbor you can go to and borrow things or talk to or connect with. Resilience first aid during and after adversities, when we know I have a friend going through a rough time right now. Some big things are happening for them this week. And then, so that rallying of that informal network of checking in and, those things that we do, bringing food, bringing comfort to one another. Collective impact, things that enhance wellness. So I also have another friend, doesn't live in Arizona, that is a yoga instructor and just started inviting people to come in her neighborhood to come over to her house, stand out in the yard together, do some yoga. So again, these really, how do we continue to connect and build resilience? Because it is the people. It is those personal interactions. And then safe spaces. So whatever that looks like, nature-based, art-based, somatic practices, sharing those, doing those in groups, healing circles, spaces, creating spaces to practice rituals, organizationally, looking at, do you do that? And then again, those informal pieces. So this was going to be our breakout, but what I want to talk a little bit about is whatever resonates with you right now, whether it's you, whether it's the organization you work in, whether it's a community you belong to, whether that's a faith-based community, whether that's like a club, a hiking club, that could be your community, or if it's your neighborhood. Where do you see or where are the resources? And I put these in here as a reminder, but you don't have to think of just only these. But as we're thinking about these resources, and I need to find hold on. So what I'm going to do is, as we're discussing this, I'm going to very sloppily create our networking, and then I'll clean it up and send it out to you. So I think what I might do is, let's do it this way. Oh, I can't do I can't shrink that. So maybe I'll leave this up if you guys need a reminder, and then I'll have the other one down here and just type it out. So any thoughts of again, centering yourself however you would like to center. Thinking about you, your organization, community, neighborhood, where are the places and what are the things that you do? Kind of like what we talked about in this slide, that are part of building transformational resilience, part of a local resilience network. Did I lose you?
Sandy, I might need a little more direction.
Okay. So
Are you asking what currently, like each of us, we feel like the part we are in our own organization, or where do we want to be in the part of the ACES consortium organization?
I would like to know where, like when you, okay, so let me ask you this question, Sabrina. When you thought of this community of practice as an informal local resilience network, what are the things this community of practice provides that makes you think that it's a local resource or a resilience network? So it's not, this is about us all collectively thinking about where are these network resources. So we have this kind of collective not collective understanding, but that no matter where you are, you can see where these resources are in your own local resilience network. What I put in the middle here is that it might be hard to think of all of these at once. So pick one for today. So is it you? So is there somebody in your neighborhood that's always, that greets all the new neighbors, that brings them a basket of muffins every time somebody moves into the network or into the neighborhood? Or is it that family? I happen to live on a cul-de-sac. So, and we happen to be very close to the mailbox in our neighborhood. So anytime somebody's outside, we talk to all of our neighbors because people are coming back and forth and checking their mail. And my husband loves to do yard work, so he knows everybody because people stop by and talk to him when he's out in the front yard doing yard work. So that to me is part of that, that reducing isolation, knowing your neighbors and who are those people. So if you know of somebody in the neighborhood, who do you go to say, hey, can we help this person? So that would be kind of an example. So really not too overcomplicating. This is not, the purpose of this is not to build the network of the consortium. This is really about us individually.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I guess, Sandy, I could tell you about our organization that I work for. I work for Navajo County Public Health, which provides a lot of these things, whether it be substance use training and tools with Narcan, mental health training, sexually transmitted infections, chronic disease. I guess is that what you're looking for?
Well, I think it's yes, absolutely. And really just an opportunity for us to see how do we support and reduce harm and help to promote resilience in the face of adversity within our circles, whether it's personal, professional. And so those things, yes, Bill, they jump right in to this, creating this network of how do you support the community. So there's substance use disorder. Did you say treatment and prevention?
Yeah, there's multiple organizations, both internally and externally. We offer CPR classes, car seat things. So I guess that kind of stuff bleeds out into the community in the sense that provides safety.
Yeah, exactly. And how does your community, connect in? Where is the safety in terms of when they need something? Are our organizations equipped to allow for that feeling of safety so people are reaching out for support when there's so much going on that says stay, keep the boundaries up, keep the protection up. Don't let people know you're struggling, because you never know what's going to happen if you let people know you're struggling. And I think that's always been, it's not something new, but I think it's just amplified. Thank you, Anna. Anna put in the chat, food pickup places, friends coming together to share space, like a book club, spiritual community, local neighborhoods, schools, parent support groups, friends in organizations for resources, local workshops, classes, training opportunities, to come together. Call me, I'm here for you. Thank you, Anna. That's amazing. But that's, yeah, the food pickup places. Are there places, restaurants, local restaurants in your neighborhood that you know of, that informally provide food for families that might not be able to afford groceries at a certain time? It could be something as simple as, this has happened to me on a number of occasions, standing behind someone in the grocery store checkout line, who is starting to pull things off the belt and putting them back because they can't afford what they've got in the shopping cart. So being able to lend somebody money to be able to get the groceries that they need. Those are informal resilience networks. And Steve, your employer provides great training workshops, resources, so places of employment for enhancing wellness. And Anna, you have a friend who picks up food from grocery stores on certain days or times and delivers it to agencies or families in need. So I want to leave some time for Tatiana to cover the wellness toolkit. Any other last thoughts of places and maybe some of the things somebody said that have sparked some ideas of ways to support, or things that, I always think when I read this, I started thinking about places that I hadn't thought about, as far as being a local resilience network. And so just wanted to bring this sort of idea to percolate for a little bit, to see where maybe we are relying a lot on formal networks, which feel a little bit unstable at times right now, just from a standpoint of staffing and all of the folks that are losing jobs, and how that might impact how organizations may be able to serve communities. So really looking at those informal places. And Steve, additionally, your faith community is very active in healing, recovery, and advocacy supports and resources. Awesome. All right. Thank you all very much. Community app, Safe Neighbor, helps keep everybody up to date on what's going on. I know if you have a Ring doorbell or camera, there's a Ring community. Is it called Neighborhood? Can't remember. Something like that. Yeah. Neighborhood app. All right, I'm going to stop and hand things over to Tatiana.
This is great. I really appreciated this kind of outlook, because so many of us do have all of these like resources in our toolkit, which is a different toolkit, guys. But we kind of know organizations that we would refer our clients, participants to. But I do kind of like what you had showed, the kind of that collectively looking at, because I will say some communities do not have this. Like, I live in an apartment complex, guys, and I don't have any of the benefits that the neighborhood gets. The neighborhood gets together, they have the watch parties and all of these things that they do. We don't have the luxury of any of that. So I think it's important to also kind of see for our clients, where do they reach out to? What are those external safety kind of networks that they would utilize? Because I think sometimes we forget that, you know, we might have those, but our clients might not. So this is like a really great opportunity to utilize this and put something together for the participants or community we work for. On that note, I will talk a little bit about this wellness toolkit, and let me see how I can make sure I share my screen. All right. I think I did it. Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yes. Okay, it'll be really quick and then it will kind of transition. But in our trainers work group, we had kind of thought about, we keep having these discussions around wellness and making sure that we have those techniques and strategies that we can utilize in our trainings for our participants. But sometimes we forget that us as trainers, it is so critical to have some of these components built into our lives as well. As trainers, as educators, as professionals, when we put that hat on, it seems we give so much of ourselves. And I guess I'm not speaking for everyone, but I'm not in my position in my job because I'm making huge amounts of money. I think most of us can agree that we have passion and heart for what we do. And obviously the people we work with and for need so much of that of ourselves. And so we give so much of that we forget to kind of build in some of that self-care component into our everyday life. And so we felt like maybe if we utilize and create together this wellness toolkit, it can serve dual purpose. Obviously, it can serve for us as trainers to kind of have that check-in, but also for our clients. And I guess we can discuss and talk about, because I guess you guys are part of building this and exploring this with us to see what would be the best to serve you and to serve your clients as well. We obviously know why it's important, but again, just to remind ourselves that when we include the wellness and self-care and prioritize self-care, not just as components in our day when the day is tough, but if we prioritize it as a part of life, just regular everyday living, then we're able to kind of stay in the moment, and we're able to perform better. We're able to show up better for those in the community and in our jobs and for our families. And I think we're all really aware that when our cup is full, then we can obviously show up much better, much more present for our family, our friends, and the community as well. So again, I just want to kind of make sure that we're looking at this as a kind of being a part of us, not just some strategies that we can utilize when we get activated, right? We have those emergency kind of components, but to make sure that we reduce some of that kind of emergency, right? By building it into our everyday lives. So what we did very preliminary is we kind of wrote out these certain sections that we felt like would be good to start exploring and developing. But before I get into kind of some of the ones that we do have, we do want to also discuss right after how this should look, how you would like to receive this, whether you can like edit for the communities that you serve, because obviously we work in very different contexts with different communities and environments. And so we do want to get feedback on what would serve you well in regard to this toolkit, and if this is something, a way to explore this. So a few things that we talked about is our mental and emotional well-being. So that one, so far, I do have things like journaling, like writing down your thoughts, gratitude list, daily reflections. Like that's something that I keep on my nightstand in the morning. I'll do something in the evening, I'll do something, and I feel like it really reframes my day. Then we have physical health, exercise routine, whether it's walking, you know, like you guys have some neighborhood things that maybe you are a part of. I know like pickleball is really big in a couple of areas that I'm living in. Like, so what kind of movement with maybe with, you know, moms and strollers type of a thing, but components of physical health and how do we build that into everyday life. Social connections. So this one, we so far talked about support networks. So kind of those things that Sandy just talked about. So what are those connections? Staying in touch with friends, family, community groups. What does that look like? How easy is it for us to build this into our daily lives? Boundaries and self-care, learning to say no when you need to prioritize certain things, prioritizing yourself. How do we do that? What does that look like? For example, I built in a lunch break, which I've never done before. I built in lunch break on my Outlook calendar. And so I'm like, don't call me. I'm not available. And I say no, and everybody knows that. A little flexibility, but mostly I try to. But that's something I never had before. And it just seems like everyone had access to me all the time, which was not good for my mental health, I would say. Let's see, acts of kindness under the social connections. So again, what had Sandy mentioned, those kind of strategies of volunteer work or small gestures that uplift others. What does that look like, right? Do we remember that we can just send a text to someone to uplift them, or a funny meme throughout the day? What does that look like, and do we do it? And what are kind of the barriers? We have creative outlets. So again, we're thinking of holistic approach to like our life, and not just self-care strategies when it's really hard to get through something, but it's a way of being. So creative outlets, art, music, dance. Where is it? When is it? How do we engage in those creative activities that bring us joy? What brings you joy? Have you thought about what joy looks like, right? DIY, crafts, knitting, painting. We took up crochet. We're terrible, horrible. But we're doing it. So hands-on hobbies, things like that. Writing, storytelling, so expressing yourself through poetry, blogging, creative writing, right? So we're just kind of like, again, seeking what is your thing. Tech and environmental wellness. So again, as trainers, we probably need to have some boundaries with our phones, our screens, our computers. So setting a screen-free time, taking a social media detox. Have you guys ever done, like, I know a lot of people do like detox like with food and stuff like that, but when's the last time you did a social media detox? Like I did it when all of this, as Sandy mentioned, executive orders started coming in, and they were too much showing up too recently on my social media. So I kind of had to detox and get away from it. Decluttering, so maintaining a clean, organized space to reduce mental clutter, home, office, environments, car, if you didn't know. That's my weakness. Nature, outdoor time, spending time in fresh air, grounding, sunlight exposure. What does that look like? Maybe building in 5 minutes where you walk out and just like you said, Jeremy, taking some deep breaths. And how many times do we just forget? Go outside, especially if you're working from home, 5 minutes, create an alarm. We have alarms to wake up. We have alarms for other things. We could have an alarm to say 5 minutes, go outside, take some deep breaths, connect with yourself, come back in. But we forget to do it. We think, well, I'm okay right now, so I don't need it, right? We're only doing that when our body gets so tense. And then we realize, I don't remember the last time I took a breath, Jeremy, right? So if we build in these like 5 minute little connection with ourselves, then we're not going to allow our body to fully shut down, close on us. And then, of course, emergency coping strategies. Under those, we have like crisis plan. I don't know that I want to call it a crisis plan necessarily, but keeping a list of like hotlines, emergency contacts would be a good idea. Again, whether it's this for yourself or for the community that you serve would look very different, right? Comfort items, cozy blankets, favorite book, playlist, and distraction techniques. We have those on here, like using puzzles, coloring books, engaging in shows to reset and things like that. So again, I know that that was a lot thrown at you guys, and these will be kind of the next steps. So I'll stop sharing my screen, and I kind of want to use this time just to get feedback from you guys. Is this something that you feel you would utilize? Is this something that you already have? What do we have, and how do we want to proceed with this? All right, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can all come in together and we can look at this. All right, feedback. Steve, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think I just let my my little icons go get beside me. No, I didn't have my hands up, but I would like to ask, since I'm on. So everything you were sharing, is that something you were just throwing out as examples, or you already have that in place and trying to build on that? And I mean, the tool is so just, everybody's looking for tools, we can describe what's going on, we can describe stress, we can describe everything, but now what do we do with it? So I appreciate, this is just a great toolkit. I mean, part of the toolkit that we could start with. So I guess I'm just wondering, my feedback would be, yes, I think hopefully it's something that can be added and taken away. But one of the things I will say that came up at the beginning, I was saying you gave some boundaries as well as tools. So how does that look in this toolkit? You have like a column for boundaries, and then a column for, these would be some great resources or things to do, and then these should be some boundaries.
Yeah. All right. Really great stuff. Yeah, Steve. So again, I really wanted this to be something that we all collectively put in our thoughts and organize. If we like the components that we have, great, let's keep that in there. If we want to add or if we want to take away. So I think it's very much so open to what we all feel would be really beneficial for us. Now, again, I do want to talk about what that would look like. We can create it just as a PDF, like these columns with strategies and things like that. Or again, I'm a very creative person, type A, so you guys have to kind of reel me in. But I was thinking kind of like a newsletter, like a magazine style, back in the day, like magazine style stuff. I thought if we created something of that sort, where we can have some of these strategies, techniques, and then resources, and it would be something that you as trainers could edit that would reflect possibly, again, for yourself, but also if you are using it for the community that you serve, why not have the ability to edit and then actually create those local resources that are applicable to your community, to your audience, and who you serve. So what do you guys think?
I like it. It's, as trainers, like you mentioned before, like we're so busy on focusing on other people that sometimes we forget about ourselves. And having something that's like easily accessible, easy to use, and easy to, to do. I like how the idea of like an emergency coping skill, because it happens, I do like that idea of like basically how can we support ourselves through this.
So back to one more thing I'll add, and then I'll get out the way, let others speak.
Hello, Steve. I can see you now. It's so nice to kind of
Yes.
connect the face to the.
Yes, I thought that's a respectful thing to do. All the talking I'm doing. You said thinking out the box, and I was just thinking about I've come across all these new, they aren't ideas, but they're card games. And so I could see this maybe on a card game or a box you pull out. There are all these games you pull out. So we're pulling out of this. The box is a toolkit. So the resources are the categories. You might have them in maybe categories. I mean, we may have them in categories. But anyway, I think everybody's into, instead of reading it and looks like another academic workbook or a couple of pages of information, it's in a game box. Pull it out and say, hey, strategy. So yeah, that's it.
I like that.
I like that idea, Steve. We actually have somebody on our trainer support work group that does gamification in as part of his role in what he does. So that might be a very good project for our work group. But also I know Sabrina is our chair for the communication work group or communication committee for the consortium. So I think getting Sabrina stuff for the newsletters might be like having a little care wellness toolkit idea for each of those. That might be our work group's contribution to the newsletter.
I love it. Anything you can add. And I think this actually is something that I've tried to do, and the communication committee has tried to do, is we do go on our website and add some self-care tips randomly on our website, on the ACES Consortium socials. I know socials are in the world right now, and sometimes, as you said, Tatiana, we need to take breaks from that. So, I mean, I know that even though there's many members of the consortium, maybe they don't all follow our socials, right? And so the socials really give back to not only us, but anybody that's reading it. So Facebook, Instagram, we put some self-care tips on there, some preventive tips on there, some wellness tips on there. But I mean, I think that as we do the work, it's important for us to know that we are giving it's kind of like the cook that's an excellent cook and chef at the restaurant. You don't want to come home and cook, right? Because you just cooked all day, right? So you're giving all the wonderful tools out there to all these people, but then you come home and you're like, I forget everything I just learned, or I don't have the capacity to do these things, right? So it's just important, definitely, to have.
That. Okay.
This is Luann.
So maybe we'll see. Yeah. Hi,
Hi.
Luann.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I really like Steve's idea of having, a set box. The other thing that I do is I keep mine in like a little box as well. I have my journal in there. I have and then I know that I have ice packs in my freezer as well, which helps me calm down if I feel overwhelmed. So there's a few things that I'm just like learning about myself and what helps me. Earlier I said when I go like after work, I really to de-stress, I go right into bed. I just lay there for a bit and cover myself. And sometimes I go right into a nap, but then I get up and it's like a really short nap. Then I get up and then I start cooking and, you know, doing things at the house, you know, because there's me and my son, and I don't want him to feel, or I don't want him to feel what I've gone through that day if it wasn't a very good day. So that's like just knowing those things. And I think sometimes though, a reminder would be nice, even just to look up at something, maybe like a poster or something. But I have like a whiteboard and I have things written down on there, kind of like my check off list for the day. Because sometimes when I do feel overwhelmed, my brain is all over the place and it kind of helps me focus as well. So those are like for me are the things that help me when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stressed. But when I'm not at home and I'm someplace, and I like say I'm going down to Phoenix area with all the traffic and everything, I feel overwhelmed at times too. And then instead of trying to breathe, sometimes I don't know. I think I'm just thinking of what can I do then? What can I do to remind myself of, you know, to breathe or take care of myself in those moments that I'm away from home. So, but just, you know, a few things that I do, I thought I'd share.
Yeah, I love that. I
Yeah.
always play music in that traffic. Music is my friend. Get me through.
So where I work, we offer to the community, we offer adult and youth mental first aid classes. We've just recently turned that now for the employees to take advantage of it, which is a really good idea. The other thing is, you said it too about going outside and get some fresh air. They encourage us to exercise for 30 minutes a day on county time, because I think it does not only physically benefits you, it's mentally healthy to get out of the office, to get away from staring at a computer and just talking about work, work, work. So that's kind of two of the things that I thought about with you had on the list there.
Do you take the 30 minutes every day?
I
Is it
do.
every day?
Yeah, I
All
do. I
right.
go outside and I'm not old by any means, but it's not bad to move either. It's not bad to get out and get some steps in. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I do it.
And did you schedule that into your routine, or you now can kind of do that without having a reminder?
I do it every day. It's not always the same time of day. Like I would be out there around noonish, but today I got things going, so I may do it a little later. Sometimes I do it earlier. I take care of me. People need to understand that. I worked in an industry. I was a cop for 25 years, and before that, I was in the Marine Corps for 6. So you have to take care of yourself. You're not going to last very long if you don't. You could help people, you could train people, but you also have to take care of you. And I learned that very early in my career. So I do it here. I encourage people to do it here too.
Awesome. I love this idea, Luana, of having a box with your tools in it. And it's like I'm gonna do it after we get done today, because I know that having those things at arm's distance, you know, like you can reach out and grab it, I think is so important. And it made me think about like when you're not at home, making a or you know, we keep things in the trunk of our car, right? Jumper cables, you know, extra water, a blanket, you know, whatever. We have that safety toolkit in our car. And what does it look like to have that regulation toolkit in your car? So that when you are, I mean, I drive in traffic. Well, I don't drive. Working from home has been a godsend because I don't have to drive in traffic. But every now and then I do, and I realize how it impacts my system. So I'm like, I need a self-care box in my car too. But I love that idea of having it all together and it's there, and especially making it visible, so that you remember that you have resources.
Like drinking water, which I forget all the time. All right. Question. Let's talk a little bit about what do you guys see in your environment with clients or the audience that what are they typically seeking from you? Do you ever receive any of those kind of requests when it comes to wellness, resilience? What are kind of some conversations that are happening with the audience or communities?
I mean, I would say all the time. I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, I work with clients that have had referrals from the Department of Child Safety, so they need a lot of they need a lot of understanding that resilience is a part of their growth, and that, you know, they need advocacy, and they need to sometimes, like if they're overstressed or overwhelmed, they need a lot of self-care tactics, you know, just to build themselves up, and self-awareness. Mindfulness is a huge part of what we do when we you know, speak with our clients. And so that holistically is why with my team, I actually do mindfulness every time we meet every Monday. We actually have a time on our agenda that we do a mindfulness activity every single Monday together as a team. Whether it is a self-reflection activity, whether it is a meditation or a breathing exercise or a grounding exercise, it's on our agenda every Monday. So they actually expect it. And the feedback I've gotten from my staff is that it helps them know that when they are putting that in their life, it's easier for them to add that to their clients when they speak with their clients. So kind of it goes both ways.
I like that. I know the county came up with the Calm app. It's called Calm. So they're using, it's like a new thing that they came up with. So we use that. And so our supervisor, same thing, every Monday before the meeting, we utilize the Calm app, and we utilize different strategies, like you said, whether it's breathing technique or an activity of some sort. And then whenever we meet virtually twice, and then virtually or in person 2 times a month. And so the in-person, we walk for the first 30 minutes. That's our walking time. And then so I've noticed more and more employers are starting to build in this self-care components in a way that actually will work with their team. Because I know like Maricopa County does have like even the gym where you can go and all of these kind of things, but a lot of us cannot access that. We live out, and the traffic, and it's just not really conducive to some of the employees. So then the supervisors have then kind of tried to figure out a different way. So yeah, I like that. Anyone else?
This is Gwen.
Okay.
Some of the things that I've noticed with the parents and the mainly I work with parents and school staff, is that they're stressed and they don't take care of themselves. It sounds like the things that I hear are they don't have time, you know, to really focus on them. And we go through, like Sabrina had said, like whenever I talk with them, we go through like either a presentation or training, the grounding part, breathing exercises, and having them learn about, you know, the type of breathing exercises there are. And usually when I get an incentive or a promotional item, I get something that is for self-care, either it be the tiny ice packs, or there's this thing called Benzie sticks, fidget spinners, or like even for the adults, you know. What else do I usually give out? the stress balls or either the hard massage balls. And then whatever I have, we just go over a little tutorial on it, on what they could utilize it for. And then sometimes even like a small, I don't have one of the ones that I have, like just a small, and a stuffed animal as well. So, and how is that useful and how, would that be beneficial for them? So that's kind of what I do when I present. I try to look for those things that would be helpful. And then it's like creating that self-care toolkit kind of a thing. Is every time they would come or every time they would come to a presentation, like say I'm going to a new school, I would make sure that I'm going to provide them something different. And then we talk about that toolkit, remember the last time, this is what I gave you guys, and then you could add this to your little toolkit, and it would be helpful for their kids as well to learn what would be helpful for their kids as well, even if either it be at home or the classroom.
And Luana, do you have, I know when I put fidget toys out in trainings, I have to repeatedly invite the adults to engage in the fidget toys because we've got this, like, I'm a grown-up, I don't need to use crayons or squishy balls or Play-Doh or anything like that. And once they start, it's like there is this whole revelation of how important that is for them.
Yeah, you mentioned the crayons or the colored pencils. I usually have those out too, and with the pipe cleaners as well if I don't have anything soft. But I've learned that the fleece texture is very calming for individuals. So sometimes I'll just cut out the little squares for them to just touch. And I think that's where the pipe cleaners are at, the really soft ones that they're, so everybody is attracted to something different to try to keep those things out. Yeah.
I know for me, sometimes if I have like a training or a meeting, I haven't done this recently, but like the first minute will be like a relaxation, kind of like a breathing, like a moment of pause that usually sets the tone in a much more calmer beginning atmosphere. And they have a lot of those online. And about Calm app, I absolutely love Calm. So it's funny you mentioned that. I love it.
And the other thing is stretching. Stretching is really good too. There's a lot of people that don't stretch and they get a lot of tension on their shoulders here. So just having those little simple things like that.
Yeah, and I know time is something that I noticed as well. Like with our participants, I typically work with pregnant and parenting under 18 months parents. And that's same thing all the time. They're saying, I don't have time. But it seems like there's time that they've built in. You get lost in social media, in your TikTok, because they'll talk to me about that, right? And I'm thinking, okay, we need to always rephrase, like, how do we build time? How important it is to build time in. And I think that there's a notion that like it's all or nothing. Like we have to exercise for 30 minutes and we have to, right, do all of these things for insane amount of time. And we forget that it's just those like few moments throughout the day that can make all the difference. Like you said, like stretching for 5 minutes. It doesn't have to be more than that if that's all you have. And getting your kids involved, right? When you don't have time, how do you build in that with your kiddos? So I think that's a big thing that we notice a lot of the time is they're isolated, they're stressed, and no one has time. That's the response. They're seeking all of these opportunities, but it just seems like even when the opportunities are given, there's not a lot of engagement. There's just kind of, do you guys ever get that? Because that's kind of what I get with my families. And then as a trainer, I'm like, oh.
And I think you're right, Tatiana, because I think we um, what is it? We overthink it, like overcomplicate it. Like we have to, you know, we have to create this time, which is important, scheduling it in, like scheduling lunch. I've started to try to do that
Sure.
myself, it's like schedule those blocks, that time to get up and get away from your desk, from your computer. And it something you said just made me think about this. There is a gentleman, Dr. Rick Hansen, and I'm putting the link in the chat, and he does a lot with like the brain as well, like rewiring. He's got a book called Neurodharma, but he has a newsletter, and also the newsletter got turned into a book called Just One Thing. And so he talks about like doing just one thing, like these really simple practices that help to rewire your brain for calm and for space and for all of that. And one that that I am trying to practice more often in recently is this: whenever we don't often, when we feel a moment of joy or we feel a moment of happiness or celebration, we sort of just let it wash over us. We're in it and then we're out of it. So one of the things he talks about is taking a moment to really just sit in that feeling, to help rewire our brain's negativity bias. So like when good things, and not like big good things, but when you get done with a project and it's something that I'm only speaking for myself because I'm sure this happens to nobody else. It's that thing that's week to week been on your to-do list and you keep putting it off and putting it off and you finally get it done. And there's that feeling of euphoria, like, oh my goodness, now I don't have to put that thing on my to-do list again. And just taking a moment to just sit in that and sit in those feelings and really be conscious and present in those feelings, and how that, calms your body, rewires your brain, all the things. So I've subscribed to his newsletter for quite a number of years. And so he's always got really good, very simple things that are easy to do in just a few minutes.
I'm going to include that. So I'm writing down some of the strategies that you guys are utilizing, so then we can kind of put a rough draft, and then we can kind of look at that and we'll probably send it out and get some feedback. I like that.
I was just gonna add that I think I think it's important to say that whether it's just the one thing, right, that you were saying, Sandy, or Tatiana, you were saying, like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? That the point is just to be present in the moment and to feel accomplished when we are able to do it, right? I think sometimes this fear of like commitment, like, oh my God, I have to do it every day, or I have to do it for 5 minutes, right? That commitment is really fearful, because what if I can't? And now I'm failing at another thing, right? And so that can really be daunting, of a thought. So not to just check it off the list, but to feel accomplished when we are able to do it, or to give us a pat on the back and praise ourselves when we are able to do it, rather than to say, oh, okay, I did it for the week, I don't have to think about it again, but instead think of it as a positive, instead of a negative.
Right. We don't want it to feel like a task that you're checking off, but just a way of life, taking care of ourselves, being present with ourselves. How many of adults forget to laugh throughout the day? Sometimes you'll go days and you're like, I don't remember the last time I laughed. Maybe you chuckled about something here and there, if you maybe met with a coworker or something. I always think laughter is the best medicine, but that takes us out of our adult brain. I think we are so stuck in our adult brain, our professional hats, our wife hat or partner hat or whatever, or mom hat. We kind of need to reframe how we're looking at life in general, so that we are not getting so kind of boggled down with everyday things that we have to deal with. So I think that this kind of wellness toolkit could be a way for us to be reminded of some of the things that are out there. And then we can kind of, when we see it, right, then we're like, oh yeah. And then we're kind of hopefully seeking some of those opportunities when they do become available. And like you said, Sabrina, like when they feel right in that moment, if it feels right and you can do it. But if it's not something that we have at our fingertips to kind of look at and giving us some type of reminder, then we tend to chuck it off like, okay. Same thing with my workout regime. I always think I'm going to start next Monday. That next Monday never comes, it seems like. So, all right. Sandy, do you have anything else that I make sure that I ask in regard to the toolkit?
No, I think this has been really, really good. And I've been taking notes too, to be able to sort of flesh this out and have our work group sort of take a look at like how we can organize it and what's the best way to make sure that it's accessible to everybody. And then we just try it out and get feedback from our trainers of if it's working or not working. All right. Awesome. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you letting us pick your brain. And so I am sharing in the chat the community of practice feedback form. It's a Google form. It'll take like less than 5 minutes, hopefully, unless you have a lot to say, and then it might take you a little bit more than 5 minutes. But I wanted to wrap us up with a little close and beauty. And let me make sure I'm sharing my sound. Oh, did I share the wrong one? I think I shared, nope, I shared the right screen. All right. So this might be familiar if you've probably seen this, but it kind of hit me this week. So I chose this for our close and beauty.
The hill we climb. Mr. President, Madam Vice President, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, for us, we close the divide because we know to put our future first. We must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith, we trust. For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour. But within it, we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from our bronze pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the windswept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and dutiful, will emerge battered but beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Thank you all so much for joining us today. Maybe take some time, since we've got 20 minutes before this was supposed to end, and you've still got it on your calendar that you're busy until noon. So maybe take some of those great ideas that you all have shared with each other and practice a little bit of self-care and capacity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Anna. All right, my friend, I'll send you the notes that I took for all the
Thank
self-care
you.
stuff or the wellness
Okay.
stuff. Okay.
All
Right.
right. Then we'll chug along with it later.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks,
Take
Tatiana.
care of yourself.
I will, you too. Bye.
Bye.